Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching 3 U3 event, and we are down to our 13th speaker, Harish Sri Giri Raju. He's the head of analytics and data science at Verizon Cloud, and Harish is based out of US. He would be giving a talk on impact of 5G on analytics and computing, a very niche but a very interesting space. Let me give a brief about Harish. Harish is the head of analytics and data science at Verizon Cloud and is responsible for building a wide range of analytics and AI products across telecom, including investment platforms, collaboration tools, information kiosk, and application across telecom and media industry. Harish, over to you, please.
Hi everyone, this is Harish here. Thank you for the opportunity to present in front of you. So the session I'll be talking about today is the impact of 5G on analytics and computing. Um, Currently, I'm working at one of the leading technology and telecom companies in the world. So definitely, Verizon is pioneering efforts on 5G. So I think it's definitely a relevant topic because it impacts a lot of industries and including AI analytics as well. So let's get started. Um, so before we begin, first, just to quickly summarize like what 5G really is. 5G is the fifth generation mobile network. So currently we are on 4G mostly. Most of the world is on 4G and we're moving to 5G. And we started with like 1G, 2G, 3G, and so on. And 5G is really expected to provide ultra high data speeds and also low latency, along with like a expansion in the network capacity itself to handle a lot of devices. To quickly highlight some of these facts, 5G is expected to really enable $13.1 trillion worth of goods and services as of 2035. It is estimated that. And second, when someone starts using 5G, the peak rates of data usage can go up to 20 gigabytes per second, so which is like a huge jump compared to what we are seeing today. Now, before jumping into analytics and AI, first, what are the main factors that contribute to the volume of data? So the first factor is the number of devices which are generating this data, right? Like I, as a user, individual user, I'm using my phone. I have a wearable and few other devices at home. All of these devices are generating a lot of data, along with like enterprise use cases as well. Second, there are a lot of applications running on these devices, constantly, trying to collect as much data as possible. And the last is, as I said, the amount of data generated per application across these devices. So these are the main contributing factors to the exponential growth of data. Now, let us look at how the advent of 5G will impact all these three factors, right? Like, one, 5G will unlock new use cases, new applications, and remove the constraints of Wi-Fi or 4G network. And you'll see, firstly, you will see a lot of like IoT devices that are especially in outdoor spaces. Like you'll see connected cars, you will see drones, for example, or augmented reality. People might wear these glasses that can actually give them this augmented reality experience. So these are like big ways where 5G will create an impact, and you will see massive explosion in terms of the number of IoT devices. The second important factor how 5G will affect it is, as devices get more sophisticated. Let's take the connected car example. You'll start seeing like more applications on connected cars. You will see safety related applications, you will see entertainment applications on these cars. So overall, the number of applications running on each of these devices are also going to increase. And lastly, I think the world has realized the potential of AI analytics. So all the leaders, product leaders, data teams, they've realized that we need to start collecting more and more data if we want to leverage the potential of machine learning and AI. And hence, again, especially in the world of 5G, you will see a lot more data being generated. you'll have to manage low latency expectations. Let's say if you're managing a connected car, you can't actually run some of these things manually. You will have to leverage machine learning to provide like quick decision making to, for example, avoid accidents and so on. So I think the amount of data that will be generated is massive. Along with that, the teams are also looking to leverage AI and machine learning. Now, because of this exponential growth of data, what are some of the big challenges that the teams are facing? And especially when I say teams, I'm talking about data teams, folks who are building analytical models, folks who are creating these machine learning models. So let's look at some of those challenges that these teams will face in the world of 5G. So the first challenge is, as I said, we are going to see a huge number of like devices, IoT devices. So the teams have to now start thinking about not just like one device in isolation, but how do they plan for collecting all this data from multiple devices. So they'll have to like expand their data strategy to ensure that all these devices are somehow connected to each other in certain cases, sometimes with like external devices as well that you are not deploying. So these are some of the things that the data teams have to keep in mind. The next one is handling large amount of data. So you will see with 5G, the amount of data that is being generated is significant. So, for example, again, mostly in terms of video. So you'll see cars recording a lot of videos potentially for self-driving. Let's say you will see drones maybe collecting a lot of videos for security purposes or for other manufacturing purposes and so on. And you can see maybe like security cameras as well. So you'll see a lot of like video footage being generated, and this actually like amounts to a lot of data. So the teams have to enable themselves to be able to handle this amount of data. The third biggest challenge is how do you plan for low latency? Because as we move from 4G to 5G, low latency is very critical because the decision has to happen like microseconds. So you need to compute all this data, large amount of data, especially across maybe geographies, across devices and applications. So ensuring that not only you're handling this amount of data, but also computing and processing it at a very fast pace. And then lastly, if you want to uncover user behavior, you want to do a lot of like advanced models, analytical models or machine learning models, you have to figure out a way to stitch all this data together from different devices for different users maybe. So you'll have to ensure that all this data that is distributed across applications and devices is sort of like integrated to make the best use of analytics and AI models. So these are the four main challenges that the teams have to start planning for as we move from 4G to 5G. And now let's look at what are some of the ways that teams can actually handle these challenges. What are the new trends that will emerge? So let's get into that. So overall, I think the teams have to upgrade their data and AI strategy to manage 5G related use cases. So one of the biggest things that the teams have to keep in mind is it's not just collecting or thinking about what to collect, right? That's what currently the teams are focused on. But it's also important to understand where to collect this data and when to collect this data, because you want to be careful about not trying to collect too much data and maintain that balance, because it is going to have huge cost implications. So the data teams not only have to think about what to collect, but now when to collect and where to collect as well. The next important trend is this is very critical. So we have moved from on-premise services for computing of data to cloud. Like most of the companies around the world are moving to cloud, and most of them have already moved to cloud. But but I think in the world of 5G, cloud has like limitations, because let's say I am a car in New York City. I can't have my data center somewhere in another country that is computing it, because you need to have like low latency. So that's why edge computing becomes more prominent. You no longer rely only on cloud computing. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. So you'll see lot more IoT devices relying on edge computing and not just cloud computing. So that's why you'll see more hybrid kind of like computing options. The third important trend you will see, and the teams can capitalize on, is like overall distributed computing, which again like goes back to the same point, right? Like it's not just like cloud computing or edge computing, it is across the network. And with the advent of blockchain especially, you will see a lot of like new solutions or data models where you'll have to leverage distributed computing across the network, and that's what is going to be the future. And lastly, because of these distributed data sources, I think the teams have to plan for like how to manage these machine learning models, or these distributed data sources, because ultimately you want to be able to run models effectively. You want to be able to collect data from different sources, stitch them together, maybe clean them up, and then run the model, right? So I think the concept of distributed computing will become prominent. So the AI models also need to evolve accordingly to manage this. So overall, I would say these are the uh, key trends that the teams have to keep in mind for changing their overall AI and analytics strategy for the world of 5G. And lastly, for folks who are like product leaders or data science leaders, you'll also have to think about, now currently you have certain applications and solutions. Think about like what other new devices, what other new applications will be uncovered or leveraged in the world of 5G. And you can start like planning now, because we are maybe like, let's say 3 or 4 years away from the complete transition to 5G. Again, it varies from country to country, but like largely we are seeing a lot of countries already deploying 5G to certain capacity. So hope this talk was helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Harish, for your insightful session. Just like Metaverse, 5G carries enormous potential. Specifically, when it comes to, it's not just about computing, it's not about connectivity, it's also about the application and adoption scenario on 5G and what AI can do in terms of the art of the possible. And you very well articulated, Harish, that the aspects of 5G being handled by enterprises, product companies, platform companies, or other, I would say, enterprises will be absolutely different. So this will spawn more opportunities, not only just for the professionals, but for the technologists as well, in terms of making new applications, new scenarios in terms of the state of the art, I would say, options. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate.